Hey there, space enthusiasts and fellow explorers. Today we're diving into the Starfield ship mechanics and how ships are actually going to work in Starfield. Starfield offers a bunch of different ship customization options for compartments that can be added to your ship, and it is a lot, and at first it can actually seem pretty overwhelming, but fear not, with over 200 ways to tweak your ship, you're in for a very personal space journey. Your journey kicks off with the trusty Frontier ship, which is your starter ship. As you venture throughout the initial storyline, you can amp it up and upgrade it by visiting different ship technicians at different spaceports and various planets. Different spaceports and outposts on planets range greatly depending on all of the different kind of planets that are actually in Starfield. Some may have visible spaceports and some may have outposts where you can go and upgrade and buy different unique things for your ships, where other planets might just be barren and not have anything at all. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of all of the mechanics, there are a lot of things that Starfield actually allows you to do. Now let's talk, for instance, about piracy. Yes, you can board ships and steal ships. It's not all sunshines and rainbows though. Ships that you acquire and other stolen ships need to actually be registered at a port, which does come at a pretty hefty price. So if you steal a ship, don't just expect to run around forever with it without getting it registered. You'll most definitely get in trouble in game and be forced to register your ship in order to actually fly it around and be able to pass certain checkpoints and trade embargoes. Those registration fees may also be dependent and increase in volume depending on the amount of stuff that's on a ship and how upgraded that actual ship is. We're going to talk about everything Starfield in terms of the ships, the actual ship mechanics, some of the companions that you can get for your ships, and how all of this works together to give you the ultimate Starfield experience. First, we're going to go over a lot of the different ship compartments you can get and break down a lot of the actual mechanics with how some of the actual compartments for the ships work and how they're used in game to help make your ship fly, interact with the environment, and overall just how your ship works. So don't worry, we're going to break everything down so you can navigate the cosmos like a pro. Starfield gives you a range of compartments to tinker with, so much that even it can be overwhelming at first, each offering unique advantages and disadvantages depending on how you set up your ship. Let's start with the cockpit. So first, the cockpit is the head of the ship. For example, here it shows it adds 50 cargo, 6 health, and 6 crew slots with how it's currently upgraded. And keep in mind, different ships bring different pros and cons to the table and will have different cockpit adjustments as well. As you upgrade your cockpit, this is going to increase your overall cargo space that you can hold, the overall health of your ship, and the additional crew slots that you can have. So as you upgrade it, you're going to get additional crew slots. That way you can bring more crew on board. Another additional compartment is the habitat module. The habitat module is your friend, and it's used directly to expand your crew capacity and allows you to hire more hands with specialized skills. Choose very wisely because your crew could ultimately be your ticket to success in Starfield. Again, the more you upgrade your habitat module and cockpit, again, this is going to create even more crew slots and allow you to hire more and more hands that deal with special, unique skills that are going to help you navigate the world of Starfield, visit different planets, and unlock and unearth different secrets about Starfield to give you more and more access to specialized weapons, specialized abilities, and much easier travel across the universe. Now keep in mind, for the cockpit and the habitat module, again, hands that are hired or made friends with that join your crew. For instance, like Sarah Morgan, who has a high astrodynamic skill, which when used in the cockpit or the habitat module can actually increase the capability of your gravity drive to allow you to jump much farther in space. And as you find more crew, you can assign them to these modules to perform certain tasks in them, and depending on what their actual proficiency in those tasks are, can give you more and more benefits as you place them appropriately. Next are our engines. Essentially, you'll need to place different engine modules around your ship to make it fly appropriately. You have a mass indicator on the bottom right of your screen, so that way you can see what the overall mass of your ship is, and depending on the mass of your ship and how big it is and the size, you're going to need to apply the appropriate engines to make it actually fly and take off from the ground. Additionally, the amount of engines you have can also directly affect your speed. So as you put on more engines, the acceleration and speed of your ship will actually increase. So you have to appropriately place these engines along your ship and make sure you place enough of them, but not too many because they are, I imagine, going to be very expensive. Now don't forget your fuel tanks. So fuel tanks are also something that's very important in Starfield ship crafting, and they're going to run on helium-3 and power your gravity drive. So overall, when your ship flies, it will use these fuel tanks as fuel. And remember, you'll need to actually fill up these fuel tanks and fill them up with helium-3 at specific outposts, cities, and stations across the map and across planets. And this helium-3 also powers your gravity drive. So bigger tanks for your fuel tanks means that they last longer, they give you more frequent gravity jumps, and they essentially allow you to jump and fly much quicker and for a much longer period of time. So if you plan on doing large gravity jumps or for flying around for long amounts of time, you'll need to make sure you upgrade your fuel tanks and add as many as appropriately needed. Otherwise, you're going to run out of fuel and just be stuck out in the open space, floating around forever. And remember, like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the things where when you fly to a planet, you will need to refuel at spaceports to avoid getting stranded out in the middle of space or other planets. I imagine there will be some means of actually creating fuel on your ship itself. Speaking of gravity jumps, say hello to the grav drive. This beauty lets you make light speed jumps between different star systems and cuts down your travel time drastically. Higher grav jump thrust means longer jumps essentially, and the higher this is means the farther distance you can jump. For instance, this navigator mentions we can jump a certain amount of light years. That means we're going to be able to go on our map and jump to certain star systems that are that amount of light years away. And then once this recharges and we have enough fuel in our fuel tanks, we can make additional jumps after that. But the higher that number is and the better our grav drive is, we're going to be able to jump much farther distances instead of having to hop to 2 or 3 planets to make it across a certain amount of distance. Eventually, hopefully you'll be able to jump straight to that planet if your grav drive is upgraded to the fullest extent. And keep in mind, if your jump gets interrupted, you need to get ready to fight your way out or face the consequences, because your grav jumps can be interrupted by enemies and cause you to have to fight your way out to actually get back on track to get to the place you were normally intending to go. Next, we have the ship's reactor. Now, the reactor is the part of the ship that powers everything behind the scenes and is basically the ultimate power generation source for your ship. The reactor basically powers everything that your fuel tanks don't, and it ensures your ship stays operational, especially when the fuel tanks can't actually handle the load. Now, as you upgrade your reactor, you can see by this dashboard, we have 14 directors that go along with the reactor that we can allocate to different parts of the ship, and these can pretty much be reallocated at any point in time. And the more you upgrade your reactor, the more potential cores you have to essentially send to different areas of your ship. Now, next are our weapons or offensive additions to our ship. There are different kinds of weapons that your ship can have, such as energy weapons that are shown on the demo. Other things like lasers are equipable and have their own primary weapon bonuses for fights. For instance, lasers can reduce the enemy's defensive shields. But when shooting an enemy with a laser, it can help destroy their shields, so that way you can attack their hull and their actual ship directly once their shields are completely gone. There are things like ballistic cannons and missiles that will reduce the overall hull or overall health of the ship. These are the kind of weapons you'll use after you've depleted an enemy's shield, for example with lasers. You also have electromagnetic weapons such as the electron beam, as you can see here, that will disrupt the enemy's electrical systems like ship tracking and auto lock features that lock onto enemies and potentially other systems as well. This will give you great benefits when fighting in space. And again, using different weapon types will allow you to interact with enemy ships and take advantage of certain fighting situations, so you can disable enemy ships, blast through their shields, and attack them directly. And finally is landing gear, and each ship comes equipped with auto docking features and landing gear by default when you get the ship. However, upgrades can allow you to land on multiple different types of terrain, and until you unlock those upgrades, this will make exploring planets a bit harder, since you won't actually be able to land in certain areas early game. For instance, certain areas with a marsh landing area compared to a primary city such as New Atlantis, where there's a full landing pad and it's ultimately concrete. The New Atlantis area will be a default area you can land because it's basically a docking station. But until you upgrade that landing gear, you won't be able to land at some planets that have sandy biomes, that have water biomes, for instance. And the ability to land on and explore those planets will have to be thought about, because again, you need to upgrade your landing gear so that way you can actually land in these areas. Again, this can restrict in the early game ability to land on certain planets where you do not have this terrain unlocked. Until you get the upgrades you need, you can still dock with enemy ships, however, regardless, to raid, board, or take control of them. So even though you might not be able to land on Starfield's version of Tatooine and explore the sands, you can still dock with enemy ships to steal them, board them, raid them. Next, there are multiple different ship systems and different system types in Starfield for the way your ships work, and these are some things you should definitely know about. So essentially, there are 6 main different subtypes, and these are going to be used for different things. These 6 ship subtypes are LAS, which means lasers. We have BAL, which means ballistics. We have MSL, which means missile damage strength. We have ENG, which means engine. We have SHD, which means shield, and GRV, that means grav drive. Now, each number in this dashboard shows its current rate of performance, and if you upgrade some of these numbers and decrease others, those number changes will reflect on the dashboard itself. But before we go into how these work with the power allocation system, we're going to go over a lot of the metrics and stuff that you need to know before that. So first is the hull. The hull is the main body of the ship and shows an overall health when in combat. It protects everything on the ship: crew, cargo, scientific machinery, and all of the other stuff that you have going on in your ship. And the more you upgrade this module, the more you can withstand tough fights, and build up your ship's survivability so you don't end up all floating like ragdolls in space. Next we have shield generators. These are our shields and protect our ship from sustaining damage during fights and will refresh automatically when outside of combat. Upgrading your shield gives you a longer uptime on your shields to keep them up and sustain more damage during fights. Your shields also get a faster recharge rate when filling back up when outside of direct combat. Next is cargo, and this directly affects how much stuff you can carry in space on your ship, meaning if you're loaded up with a bunch of cargo that is close to max weight, it will cost us much more fuel to actually worry about getting home. Additionally, if your cargo weight is more than your ship can actually handle, I imagine you will actually have a problem becoming over encumbered, similar to the Skyrim feature, meaning you won't be able to actually take off unless you decrease your ship's weight, being any method you desire. Certain ones may be more important to some of you than others, but if our last box of cargo is a box of diamonds or something that costs a lot of money, and you have one crewmate you really don't care that much for, well, just leave him on the planet and he can figure it out for himself. Next we have shield cargo capacity. So this actually looks to be potentially an area where we can hide stolen contraband or illegal items to keep them from prying eyes and possible inspections. Certain cities like the primary city of New Atlantis have embargo or trade blocks that are planted around the planets to keep the entry of illegal contraband to a minimum. These checks will happen each time you enter a large major port or city like this, so they will basically search or scan your ship to see if you have anything illegal out in the open. If you do and you don't have this put in the shield cargo capacity area, I imagine they will search your ship, lock your ship up in the impound, take you to jail, maybe take a bunch of your crew members away from you and really harm your progress. Then we have mobility. The higher the mobility score is, the better movement we have when actually flying through space. This increases our agility and mobility of the ship to fly, turn, and engage enemies and create a more dynamic flying experience. This added mobility when traveling through space lets your ship move much quicker and creates the ability to maneuver much better as needed. You're going to be able to fly and navigate much quicker, turn much quicker, and all kinds of different things the more mobility you have. So this is a stat you definitely don't want to neglect. Then we have your top speed stat, which shows your max speed of how fast your ship can actually go. This will generally increase or decrease with the weight of your overall ship, the maneuverability of your ship, and the agility depending on how big your ship is in size. You can customize your ship to ideally find the right balance of all these stats that are appropriate for you and how your ship feels. So the bigger your ship is, the slower it's going to be, which you'll have to compensate again with additional engines that will create a much faster ship. Then we have mass, which is your total weight for all compartments that are added to your ship, making your ship heavier overall. Again, each time you add a compartment, this will give you a rating or an addition to your mass rating, which will make your ship heavier, and the heavier your ship is, meaning the more engines you're going to have to be able to fly your ship efficiently. This can also affect things like more fuel costs needed, taking away some speed since your ship is heavier. There are a ton of different customization options that can make your ships look and feel very different. The way they initially explained this in the Starfield demo is you can build your ships in a bunch of different ways. You can build them height vertically, you can build them horizontally in a bunch of different ways. You can connect compartments all over the ship in multiple different ways, and it creates a bunch of different combinations that allow us to create pretty unique and customizable ships. Additionally, some of the customizable options are color. So each module and component is actually available to be painted any color, and we can use the brightness, saturation, and hue color customization options and scaling to get the exact color we want on our ship. Additionally, there's a pretty solid quality of life option here by using this recent tab. So the recent tab below will actually show you your most recent color additions. It is a great quality of life feature. Here we have the addition of adding cows or cowlings to our ship, which make your ship look much more official, and in some ways the notes for these actually say that these are a structural component that is largely cosmetic and allows you to modify your ship's shape, size, and personality and silhouette. This can give your overall ship a much different feel and a much different look overall, and can overall help you create a much different looking and feeling ship compared to every other ship that's out there flying around. Now, I can already guess what the first popular ship shape and size is going to be in Starfield, and I'm pretty sure all of you probably know as well what this is going to look like. We also have different ship building companies and shipping manufacturers. So this is important to keep in mind because these are going to probably be very vital points to your Starfield ship crafting experience, because all of these different ship manufacturers and businesses, they're going to have parts for sale that you actually have to acquire and buy to make your ship larger and take advantage of the bonuses you get when having these different compartments. So parts are available for in-game purchase through many different ship manufacturers and vendors to be added directly onto your ship, and there seem to be over 10 different vendors at least plus shown just on the demo alone of separate companies that make certain parts. So I wonder if different manufacturers will produce better or worse quality parts sort of like typical manufacturers today. There seems to be a possibility that the higher quality manufacturers in the game could create better and more universal parts that perform better, but at significantly higher cost. It also makes sense to be true that other manufacturers will give cheaper parts for you to be able to purchase earlier on in the game, but have a lot less efficiency. It makes sense for different manufacturers to have their own unique bonuses or stat bonuses to different ship parts. Otherwise, what's the point of having different ship manufacturers? And some of these bonuses can depend on different compartments depending on who they are made by. These are private companies in Starfield, so they could open up a lot of different things for you in game, such as missions, contracts, and other rewards for working directly with them that could greatly actually help your journey and ship construction. And they could probably help you engineer your ship to add very unique and interesting parts to your ship that give you a lot of bonuses once you've completed enough or the entirety of their quest lines. Certain companies may be companies that are like defense contractors who specialize in, let's say, shield generators. Other companies could be an offensive contracting company like the military in space and has the latest and greatest special weaponry that can help you greatly, but you can only unlock them by completing very unique quests and a difficult quest line, and unlock a bunch of different weapons, a bunch of different features this way by working with these different companies to embark on these quest lines. And ultimately, the sky is the limit with all these possibilities of how the ships work and how you can customize your ships in Starfield. With all these mechanics, it does seem like a lot and overwhelming at first, but once you understand all the mechanics as I've explained them, and kind of how the shipbuilding system works with all of the different parts and what all the different parts do, you'll have a much easier time building out your ship and becoming an ultimate fighter in Starfield with the coolest ship around. That being said, if you enjoyed this video, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel because we're going to be covering Starfield very intently up until launch and after, and let me know in the comments if you're excited about anything particular in Starfield. That being said, thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.